Good afternoon, and welcome to IHA's continuing webinar series. This is Perry Reynolds with IHA, and on behalf of the entire IHA team, we're happy to welcome our very popular speaker today. Combining a unique background in manufacturing, communication, and trade association management, Hugh Rushing, our speaker, brings in-depth knowledge to bear on the cookware and bakeware industry. After college and following an early career in advertising and broadcasting, Hugh spent nearly 15 years manufacturing and marketing consumer products, including cookware. In 1992, Hugh joined the Cookware Manufacturers Association. Under his leadership, the association has expanded to represent every major brand of cookware and bakeware marketed in the U.S. He has a global view of the cook and bakeware business and its trends. He's been a frequent guest and panelist for numerous audiences, and of course been with us several times, and an authority on every aspect of kitchenware from materials to marketing. Welcome, Hugh Rushing.
Thank you, Perry, and thanks to the IHA for these webinars. We appreciate the opportunity to be a speaker, to bring some up-to-the-minute and up-to-date product knowledge, market knowledge, sales information, and trends for cookware and bakeware in the United States. This is our third webinar, 2013, the third year that we've done this, and I think each year we've grown the audience a little bit, so we appreciate your taking valuable time out of your busy day to listen to what we have to say. We know this is a busy time of year come the third quarter. As Perry was so nice to introduce me, I thought at least I would give you a shot if you haven't had the opportunity. We haven't had the opportunity to meet. As he mentioned, I spent 15 years as a manufacturer and marketer of cookware and bakeware. I've been with the CMA now for 22 years as the executive vice president. Also spent 12 years as an adjunct professor of marketing and management at the University of Alabama in Birmingham. I primarily taught business-to-business marketing as well as principles of management. And in my youth, I had experience in retail, so I have an appreciation for the challenges that retail presents to folks and how challenging that sort of business can be. Just a word about our mission and who the CMA views as its publics. The CMA exists to promote the optimal and appropriate design, manufacture, sale, use, and servicing of cookware and bakeware. And we do that through quality standards development, voluntary standards, information sharing as appropriate, and education and impartial communication to members of the association, their trade partners, and to consumers. So today's presentation is part of our education and our impartial communication to trade partners as well as members of the association who may be on the line. I'd like to say that there is an opportunity for questions and answers. You have to type the question. There'll be a couple of places along the way that I'll stop and let the IHA staff field those questions and moderate those. We'll do our best to answer them as quickly as we can. And also at the end of the program, we'll be giving you my email address. If you have additional questions or something comes up, you can certainly contact me after this webinar. Also, the webinar is being recorded. If you miss it or have to drop out or something, you can come back and pick up the balance of it later on. CMA members produce branded cookware, and some of the brands that you will know and probably have in your retail stores you see on the screen there, All-Clad, Myers, La Creuset, Lodge, Calphalon, Wherever, Scanpan, Wilton. We have gathered and reported statistics for more than 83 years. Our CMA members report their shipments each month, and the association also monitors each and every import record for cookware and bakeware coming into the United States. So the statistics that we will present to you today represent shipments to all portions of the market and not just a single or a few channels of distribution. In short, 2013 is shaping up to be a really good year. 2012 was certainly a good year for aluminum cookware. We estimate at factory invoice $954 million of aluminum cookware. That was up 18% over the shipments in 2011. And so far in 2013, this is through 8 months, through August, aluminum cookware we show is up 14.5% over the 2012 figures. So if you add 18 and 14.5 together, you get, let's see, 28, 33, 34% growth really over 2 years if those figures hold up through the rest of 2013. Turning to stainless steel cookware shipments at 534 million for last year, 2012. That was flat with 2011. And so far in 2013, stainless steel cookware shipments to retailers are even with 2012. So in short, aluminum is growing while stainless steel is sort of static. Most of the growth appears to be in stainless steel coming at the mid-priced segment of the category. For the full year in 2012, as we turn to cast iron, porcelain on steel, copper, and other materials, we combine these together in order to provide confidentiality to producers. In 2012, shipments of $400 million were up 3.5% over 2011 shipments. That should be, not 2012. And so far in 2013, cast iron, porcelain on steel, and copper shipments are up 19% over 2012. Much of this growth has come in the enamel on cast iron category, which has seen expanded distribution in retail channels and much more choice than we have seen in years past. Bakeware, for the full year 2012, after a big 2011 year, bakeware slumped 7% to $368 million. But so far in 2013, bakeware has recovered. It's up 12% over 2012 thus far. So it's actually recovered from that slight slump and has actually increased a bit. 2011 was a big year for bakeware. Bakeware tends to be, we find, a little more cyclical in its demand and in its shipments than cookware is. Kitchenware for the full year 2012, we estimate $588 million, up 13% over 2011. And so far, kitchenware is up 11% over 2012. People say, well, what is kitchenware exactly? Well, it's things that sort of look like cookware but are not cookware. It does not include gadgets, but it would include things like mixing bowls, colanders, and various items that CMA members typically make or distribute, which go along with cookware. It also can include spare covers, spatter screens, things like that. And tea kettles for the full year 2012, they were down 8% over 2011, but so far in 2013, just like bakeware, tea kettles are up 19%. Again, the tea kettle category is one of those that sort of waxes and wanes year over year, and just as soon as you see a decline year, you'll see it pop back up the next year. Interestingly, private label and imported cookware shipments were flat in 2012 over 2011. It was challenging times in foreign sourcing with lots of labor unrest in China. That continues, but it has recovered so far. Through the 6 months of 2013, which is the latest statistics that we have, imports are up 11% over those imports in those same categories in 2012 in dollars, and up 7% in units. The average price per unit is up 3.2%. This is probably a good place to take a pause and a breath and to see if there's any questions about the statistics that you've seen or the figures that have come across the screen. Do we have any questions that have been sent in yet?
I have no questions other than if they'll receive a copy of this presentation, and I responded that it'll be available on our website.
Yes. All righty. So don't be bashful. Send us your questions. So far in 2013, branded shipments are strongly ahead compared to last year, up 11% over this time last year. Retailers in some cases have chosen to widen their offerings in cookware and bakeware. Many waited until late to place their holiday stocking orders, we hear. This has resulted in some less than optimal mixes for some retailers. Some retailers have recognized, though, last year that they missed some sales due to out of stock. We don't think it'll be that critical in the next 60 days of the holiday season in 2013. Now, let's turn for a moment and look at specific consumer preferences within those statistical categories, which we have shared with you the shipments. In aluminum cookware, the anodized part of that business is about 38% of the dollars. Materials with a colored exterior, in other words, colored aluminum cookware, about 55%. Polished exterior or a natural finish, 7%. And nonstick coatings occupy roughly 80% of the aluminum market, and that it's nonsticks of all types. When it comes to consumer preferences for stainless steel cookware, multi-ply, anything from 3-ply, tri-ply to 9-ply, occupies 66% of the dollars, only 40% of the units. Obviously, the unit costs and unit price for multi-ply product is much higher than fabricated bottom or cap bottom. Fabricated bottom, a third of the dollars, but 60% of the units. And then single wall, which mostly consists of stock pots and deeply drawn product, just 2% of the dollars and units in stainless steel.
Hugh, I have a few questions here.
Okay, this is a good place to stop and catch those questions.
Okay. How do you gather the private label cookware statistics?
From the import reports, mostly.
Okay.
And from the manufacturers, if they're members of the CMA and also produce private label products, we capture them that way as well. Much of the private label is imported product, and we catch that with the imports.
Okay, and what % of the nonstick business is ceramic?
In the United States now, less than 5% by our estimation.
Any information regarding trends for tech gadgets in the kitchen like SodaStream?
We do not cover such items, so I wouldn't be competent to comment on that one.
Do you have any data on the specific retail channels of distribution where growth is occurring, i.e. commerce, specialty retailers, mass market?
Yes, and that's a slide that's upcoming. We will
Thank
cover
you very
that.
much.
All righty, very good. Okay, specific consumer preferences for bakeware, evenly split between metallic and glass as the base material for the product. When it comes to specific consumer preferences for bakeware, here are the popularity of items by rank in unit shipments. And this has, by the way, been very stable for a number of years. It hardly ever changes. 32% for cake pans and sheet cake pans, cookie sheets 16%, muffin pans 10%, loaf pans 4%, meat and roasters 3%, and pie pans coming in last with 1%. So somebody asked, where do consumers shop? Here's the markets of distribution as we break them down. Mass merchants, including clubs, 29%, up from 2011. This is for the year 2012, by the way, but down a little bit from 2010. Big box, including outlet and gourmet stores, 18%, which was a slight decline from 2011. Traditional department stores, down rather sharply to 8% from 2011. Moderate department stores, those would be the JCPenney, Sears, 14%, basically flat from 2011. What we call odd markets, which include military retailers such as APHIS, direct sales, 3%. Internet merchants, 7%, even with 2011. And very small single-digit statistics for grocery, drug, television sales. For bakeware, it's a little bit different. Mass merchants, including club stores, 37%. Big box, including outlet and gourmet, at 17%. National moderate department stores, 14%. Grocery and drug, 8%. Traditional department stores, just 3%. Internet, about 4%. We have found that the more traditional and the older consumer is the purchaser of bakeware. Price points are continuing to go up. Quality bakeware greatly exceeds the thin and cheap bakeware of the past. So the bakeware business has grown rather substantially, more in dollars than it has in units in the last several years. Here are the demand factors. Okay.
Oh, a couple other questions.
Sure.
Where does the silicone bakeware fall in this mix?
Silicone bakeware, we do not track that separately from metal bakeware, and we think it is, again, in the low single digits as a percentage.
And also, do you have stats on the redemptions and loyalty programs?
We do not. That is a function, really, of our members' marketing arms, and it's just not something that we get involved with as far as, because it's such a competitive part.
Perfect. Thank you, Hugh.
You're certainly welcome. Certainly welcome. Our demand factors based on 80 years of statistical correlations, new household formation, marriage, divorce, and graduation being the chief of those are real drivers for cookware demand. New home construction, another driver for demand. Substantial remodeling, particularly of a kitchen and eating area, drives demand. And then general economic uncertainties, and this is the counter-cyclical part cookware and bakeware have. When we go through tough economic times and people stop building and remodeling, sometimes they go and buy cookware because they decide new cookware is cheaper than eating out frequently. We also see correlations between restaurant visits and demand for cookware and bakeware. And the more restaurant business, the less cooking at home and the less use of cookware. And the more entertaining the customer does, the more likely they are to buy or expand or use cookware and bakeware at home. It truly is, you hear a lot of talk about social media. Cookware and bakeware is a social product for sure. And it's been very interesting. Back in September, we were honored to have Sharon Frank, the director of the test kitchens and testing laboratories for Good Housekeeping magazine, come and talk to the association for its fall members meeting. And Sharon brought along some information that she had gathered and some statistical work that they have done with their readers. And she shared with us the reasons consumers say that they buy new cookware. Their old cookware is damaged, 58%. The old cookware just doesn't look good, 26%. Sprucing up the kitchen, 8%. An interesting statistic, and I highlighted that in red, needing a specific pot or pan for a recipe or a type of food, 34%. And you notice there I illustrated that with a tangine, which 10 years ago I thought tangine was a fruit, and of course I now know what it is. It makes Moroccan dishes easier to cook. Because I bought a new range, 3%, and because I remodeled my kitchen, 2%. We still get a lot of calls from people who have discovered on purchasing a smooth glass-top kitchen range that their old cookware either rattles on top of it or is not perfectly flat, and that is obviously a driver for cookware purchases. Another Good Housekeeping finding, which I think you will find interesting, is the question about how often do you buy new cookware. And you can see the percentages there, but it does mean that 90% of America buys new cookware within a 10-year period. So there's very few consumer products, other probably than cell phones and things like that, where you can expect a replacement cycle that rapidly. You notice 40-something% within 5 years are expected to buy, are expecting to buy new cookware. Some consumer preferences and retailing strategies. We continue to find this the case in our conversations with consumers. They want to feel the product out of the box and in their hand. And we know that they also want one in the box when they're through hefting it at your retail store. So always order two. So display cookware outside of the box so the consumers can heft and feel what it feels like. Consumers want information. Utilize educational materials to help train your sales staff to prompt for and answer questions. We have resources on our CMA website. You see the URL there, which really goes through lots of different materials that are in the cookware, the different ways that handles are attached, the different ways that food cooks. It's really an educational outreach on our behalf to help your retail staff be able to help the consumer find the information that they need. People seek affirmation, and I've said this before, I continue to say it. We now have an educational system which no longer teaches what used to be known as the domestic arts. When I was in school, it was called home ec. Now, the boys didn't take it, just the girls. We went down and the boys went down and built a bookcase. The girls got some life lessons, and they knew how to sew, and they knew how to cook and how to follow a recipe. We don't teach that in schools anymore. So I think consumers do seek affirmation. And the strategy here, obviously, is to seek to build the consumer's confidence level that good cooking is, it's not complicated and it's not rocket science, but it's a combination of the right tools and fresh food, along with really some very simple techniques and instructions. And retailers, I think, have all three of those things to help the consumer feel affirmed and successful in their kitchen. Good Housekeeping asks their readers what matters most to them, and what the material, their consumers say, material is the most important thing when it comes to their choice of cookware. 47% cited that, followed by price and brand, an appearance, and then color, interestingly enough, by less than 1%. Good Housekeeping also asked consumers what they were bothered by, room for improvement, and believe me, the industry took notes on this. Food sticking, 36%, handles that become loose, 26%, handles that get hot, 24%, difficulty in cleaning their cookware, 22%, and uneven cooking, 21%. Some advances in materials and coatings to talk about. Nonstick coatings are better than ever. They're longer lasting. All the major, particularly the branded nonstick coatings, are safe now for use with metal utensils. 90% of them can easily are recommended to go into dishwasher. There's more scratch and heat resistance in the formulations now. Concerns about the questions of PFOA still don't penetrate. Ceramic nonsticks are a mixed bag, and most brands of nonstick are now not made with PFOA, and that is particularly true in the branded nonstick end. I just saw a thing today. DuPont, for example, the producer of Teflon, does not make any formulations now with PFOA at all. Good Housekeeping says consumers say ceramic nonsticks need improvements. You have to treat it like cast iron and season it. It won't hold seasoning. You have to use oil when cooking with it. Cannot fry eggs without having them stick. Foods begin to stick even with hand washing. Ceramic nonsticks do not have the release qualities that you see in traditional PTFE finishes. The quality of manufacturing has increased. Products built today are much different than they were when I got into this business 35 years ago, and they've improved immeasurably even in the last decade. Good Housekeeping's analysis of what consumers wrote about their cookware, you'll note that quality, durability, and performance outweigh price, size, and weight. And believe me, the quality and the durability and the performance are the drivers on the manufacturer side in attempting to produce products that are improved over what has been offered in the past. The value equation has increased markedly. If you go back and look at what a set of cookware cost 25 years ago and looked at the quality compared to what you can buy for the same amount of money today, you readily see that. There are more options than ever. More manufacturers have taken niche positions and are producing for specific parts of the market. High fashion really melds with utility. This is one of my favorite slides. You'll recognize the pan on the right. Perhaps, depending on your age, it could either have been your pan, your mother's pan, or your grandmother's pan, compared to the almost a work of art that you see on the left. Looking to the future, more sophisticated alternatives to nonstick, although traditional nonsticks are not, I think, going to be challenged until the food release attributes match traditional materials. More made in the USA, more manufacturers continuing to grow manufacturing in this country. More lines are coming back to be produced in the United States due to those challenges that I mentioned earlier in China, particularly with the labor force and the demands for increased pay. We have much wider array of worldwide quality brands in the U.S. You see this when you go to the IHA show in March. For many brands in Europe, the U.S. is seen as the only growth market due to their stagnant economies at home. So there are more and more companies from Europe that are looking to grow their business in the United States, all of which means a greater selection for retailers and a greater selection for consumers in the United States. And flexible and lean manufacturing mean that there are more non-comparable offerings available to retailers. People have learned how to turn on a dime to quickly switch colors on lines without even slowing anything down. They put duplicate systems in where you can prime another color and be ready to go and make a switch in moments. Different set packs, different assortments, all to give individualization to those retail offerings. And I think a little bit another trend looking to the future, perhaps maybe slightly less emphasis on celebrity endorsements. We've seen a lot of those in the last several years. We get some sense from talking to people that these perhaps are not as popular as they have been in the past. Not to say that they're going away, but perhaps there won't be as many celebrity endorsements in the future. I'd like to take just a second. If we could, we got any questions, Jenny or Perry?
There are no questions at this time.
Okay, very good. Some resources from the association. We have our website, which you can visit and find a number of different resources on there. Our blog, cookwareandbakeware.org, which we blog from time to time, discussing everything about cooking and cookware and trends and things that are going on from the consumer standpoint. We have our Ask the Experts section of our website at cookware.org, and you see that, and the URL is there. You can ask the experts, send us an email, or you can give that to consumers in your shops if they need to ask a question. If we don't know the answer, we can certainly put them in touch with the person that does. We have our guide to cookware and bakeware. This is about a 50-page, really for prosumer consumers or retailers, either one. This literally covers the waterfront, nomenclature, how things are measured, standard sizes and shapes, the different materials, the different ways which food cook. That's available from the CMA, and if you would just shoot us an email, we're more than happy to mail one of those out to you. We have two applications for smartphones, one for iPhone, one for Android, called Find My Cookware and Bakeware. These are free apps that are downloadable. We probe and ask a number of questions, and then we send the consumer to websites of branded cookware where they can get more information and hopefully get steered to you, the retailer. We're at the trade shows. Always look forward to meeting folks at the IHA show or the Ambiente show in Germany early in the year. So time now for questions or additional information that we could supply on any of this.
Okay, I have a few questions here, Hugh.
Okay.
What are the trending materials for cookware and kitchenwares as the kitchen aesthetic? And the kitchen aesthetic.
Yes, and the kitchen aesthetic. Well, the trending thing, as you could see, is obviously aluminum cookware with very substantial growth over the last couple of years compared to other materials. Color, I still think, despite consumer good housekeeping's findings, I still think new colors do drive cookware. I think particularly that's one of the drivers in the growth that we've seen in porcelain enamel on cast iron. Beautiful pans with beautiful colors obviously are attractive to the consumer while they're on the shelf. and help them take their place in the consumer's kitchen.
The next question, referring to the slide showing the percentages where consumers purchase cookware, most of the percentages are down or flat from 2011. Which segment is absorbing these percentages?
I would have to go back and look at that. I can't answer the question just immediately. I would have to go study the backup stuff to answer that question.
Okay, fair enough.
But I don't have. It doesn't jump right off the page at me.
What are the top concerns among CMA members about the future of the category and business outlook?
Well, I think most of our members have a positive outlook, because I think as we see the economy recover, and hopefully it's going to continue to recover, I think we're seeing demand recover for a lot of items that were fairly flat during the last recession. The last recession we had was sort of unique in that it really affected all price categories, moderate, low price, and high end as well. Before that, and at least in my experience over the last 22 years, we would see a recession. It really only affected moderate to low end product demand. But this was a recession that was deep, and it was wide, and it affected all income levels. And we do think that consumers of all income levels pulled back. There was obviously and when the recovery began, though, it began at the lower and the middle price. I think now what we're seeing, the recovery is accelerating to the upper ends of price points as compared to what it was, say, a year and a half ago. So I think our members are seeing continued recovery. I think they're hopeful that the recovery continues at the higher end price points as well as the low end and the moderate.
Are shows such as Ambiente still influencing color selections?
I think those shows are influential in that they show the wide array of possibilities. How many of those actually translate into successful consumer products, is always a question. But it's obvious that particularly the Ambiente show, which has become a really, like the IHA show, it's a world-attended show. There are people there from around the world. Obviously has an influence. Many of the things that you see at Ambiente don't translate to America, particularly some of the colors. Europeans are a much more daring group of consumers when it comes to colors, particularly colors on interiors. You see some stuff that's just it blows your eyes away, and I guess they sell. I see it in Italy's Italian stores and in French stores that they just don't. Americans just are not quite as adventuresome when it comes, but it's certainly still an influential show for looking at colors, and there's that lag. I remember many years ago going and it's like the West Coast in fashions, and I came home and told my wife that everybody was wearing a thing around their middle, and it was called a fanny pack. And it took a couple of years to get to the East Coast, but eventually did. And sometimes I think that about some of the colors I see in Europe. It'll be 4 or 5 years before they'll make it across the pond, if they do.
The next question is, do the apps only lead consumers to members of CMA websites?
I'm sorry, please repeat that.
Do the apps only lead consumers to members of CMA websites?
That is correct. It's a program for our members, yes.
Okay. Which U.S. markets are the biggest, hottest for kitchenware sales?
Which U.S. markets?
Which U.S. markets are the biggest, hottest for kitchenware sales? That's the question. Okay.
I don't know whether that would be a geographical question or whether it's a channels of distribution question. Obviously, from a markets of distribution, mass merchants and big box and gourmet stores account for the majority of cookware that is sold in the United States. Cookware is pretty evenly distributed throughout the population. It's not like probably on a per capita basis, probably people in New York don't cook as much simply because they have smaller kitchens and more opportunities to eat out as compared to farm families in Kansas. I do know that the only geographical differentiator that I'm familiar with is typically Louisiana, typically the larger sizes of product, and you can say that about South Texas as well, mostly due to family size. Everywhere else in the country, a 10 or a 12-inch skillet is the most popular, and those geographical areas, larger sizes like 14-inch or 16-inch are more popular. Same thing with Dutch ovens. Most people have a 5-quart Dutch oven there. It's 8-quart or a 10-quart, simply because of the size of the people sitting down to a meal.
The next question, do you know what are the top foods that bakeware is used to prepare?
By our statistics, cake mixes are the largest thing, followed by cookies. And when we say cake pans, that means all types of cake pans, square as well as rectangular, and then followed by cookie recipes. That would be number 2. Unfortunately, pies are way down there at the bottom. Always depresses me a little bit, but I've made a few pies in my life, and there's a lot of trouble there. That's for sure. I guess I could understand that.
The next question, any thoughts on technology entering the kitchen?
Well, you know, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on technologically speaking, particularly with 3D design, and I know some of our members have design studios that are just absolutely world class with some of the strangest software things where you can actually take and actually feel the product in your hand as you manipulate it on the screen. As far as materials are concerned, there are a lot of exotic materials out there. Most of them, though, don't readily lend themselves to cookware because of the heat involved. So that's one area that plastics really have not made much of a dent in. Someone had a question earlier about silicone bakeware, and while silicone bakeware operates perfectly well and looks astonishingly great, for a lot of people, a flexible piece of bakeware is, they end up having to use a cake pan to support it or a sheet pan to support it, or to have a wire reinforcement around the product. So, you know, that was a material that we thought might really make a great impact, and it did make a huge impact initially at the retail level, but there wasn't much return interest on the consumer level.
I have a couple more questions. What do you anticipate the impact of brand migration in cookware like Health Salon and Walmart?
Well, that's a good question. And this question has come up before, obviously, when brands have migrated from one a particular sector to another. I will say this, I think manufacturers have the opportunity really with their flexible manufacturing now to offer a number of different items at a number of different retail price points. And as long as the quality is there, I don't think it necessarily is a negative to a brand. You know, in a mature market like cookware and bakeware, there's no way that you're going to invent something like the natural gas fracking. There's not going to be some huge demand. So you have to think of product differentiation and brand extension as being one of the few things that you really can do to grow a brand and to increase its sales. And then that's find a convince a retailer to provide more space for product or extend that brand into a channel of distribution where you have not visited before. And you know, it'll be interesting to see how that works out.
Is there a dominant color for the kitchen and kitchenware for 2014?
I'll know that after I go to the IHA show and see the color presentation.
Okay. The last question we have is you've made no reference to microwave cooking, and why?
Well, microwave cooking is, number one, we don't track microwave-specific cookware. There's very little microwave-specific cookware, so most of it, as you well know, that's specifically marketed for microwave is what's called the gemstone material, the very hard plastic material. Although most people who use the microwave simply use their glass bakeware in the microwave cavity. We still find, and if you go and talk to the people that make microwave ovens, as we have done, they will tell you that most people use the microwave oven for cooking bacon and for popping popcorn and for reheating leftovers. And very, very few, very little microwave cooking for the primary meal, if you will, of the day. We get to ask this same question, and I'll add this because I know somebody will be thinking about this. How about induction? You know, induction hot plates are now at a price point where I think more people are going to try induction. But if you look at the price of induction ranges with an induction unit on the top of it, along with conventional units, you will still see a several $100 premium being asked for by the appliance industry. And whereas induction is much more penetrated in the European market, it is still a very, very small percentage in the United States market.
Well, I think that's our last question. We at IHA want to thank you again for sharing your wisdom with our audience and remind the audience that, as you have said, that this webinar will be posted on our website at housewares.org in about 24 hours, so that if any of their colleagues didn't get to hear you, they'll be able to hear you, although not as live as we heard you. But thank you again for your time, and thank you to everybody for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.